Hello and welcome to Adventures in Local Marketing from BrightLocal, the marketing podcast for marketers who want to do good local SEO. So in the upcoming episodes, I'm going to be chatting with a smorgasbord of marketers who are each going to bring their unique insight into the local marketing landscape. And each episode is going to serve up a one-stop overview of our guest's chosen topic area, and it's going to give you tips and tactics that you'll be able to dash off and implement right away, as well as getting your brain cogs whirring. So I am your host, I am Claire Carlisle, and I'm BrightLocal's local search expert, as well as a chartered marketer with over 20 years of experience working with local businesses of all shapes and sizes. And today we are going to be chatting with a very lovely person, Marie Haynes. So Marie's career in SEO began back in 2008 when she became a recognised leader in tackling Google's Penguin algorithm because very few people understood it. And she began giving advice in SEO forums, and her knowledge was in high demand. So she went ahead and she built a team of SEO specialists to deliver in-depth audits, and they were helping businesses of all sizes that had been negatively impacted by Google's algorithm updates, and they worked with them to improve their websites to better meet Google's changing standards. So this team's work helped shape the industry's understanding of Google's use of EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness as a concept to describe what their algorithms strive to reward. And Marie has written some pretty seminal texts for SEOs, including the Creating Helpful Content Workbook and the Google Quality Raters Guidelines book. And today, Marie is a thought leader in how AI has changed Google's algorithms and the changing face of search. And Marie is about to publish her latest book and accompanying workbook, SEO in the Gemini Era, the story of how AI changed Google search, which will be a must-read for anyone involved in organic search. So, hello Marie, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Claire. It's so great to see you.
It is lovely to see your happy face. It was lovely to meet you in person at Local U in Toronto, which is where we made our connection. And you did a brilliant presentation that started me thinking about various things. And so we are super lucky to have you here today talking about AI with us.
Yeah, it's all I can think about lately. The whole world is changing, and so this is going to be a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're brilliant. Thank you. So today we are going to be talking about AI and in particular Google Gemini, and then the implications for marketers, local marketers, and indeed marketers of any kind. So I'm super excited to hear from you on some of the questions that we have for you. And you were kind enough to let me have access to the early adopters version of your book, which I've just talked about. I loved reading that. It really opened my eyes to the possibilities. I went ahead and got the paid versions of basically Gemini and everything, so I'm using them a lot more now. I like to start at the beginning, which is with a little bit of a definition. So I'm really hoping you can give us a top level overview here. So what do we mean when we talk about AI? And generative AI. Can you give us a few examples? And can you finish with telling us a little bit about Google Gemini, please?
Sure. So I think when we talk about AI, a lot of how I use the word AI and even how Google uses the word AI. I mean, if you, I don't know if you saw any of their I/O conference, and Sundar Pichai actually counted how many times he said AI. I think it was like 122 times, something like that. If you are somebody who has studied AI for your whole life, what we're talking about isn't even really the full AI. So when Google talks about AI, a lot of the time what they're talking about is machine learning. And machine learning is essentially just math. All of Google is just math. It's incredible how PageRank is the thing that made Google better than all of the other search engines. That was just a way of using the signals on the web, links and the anchor text, converting it into numbers and doing calculations with it to figure out a ranking score. That's pretty impressive, right? So a lot of what we talk about when we say the word AI is machine learning. Now, another area where we use the word AI that uses machine learning is large language models. So I'm sure, do you do much with ChatGPT?
Yeah, those are my main two. It's just ChatGPT and then Gemini. Those are the two that I play around with.
Excellent. So, I mean, if you've used ChatGPT or Gemini, those are large language models, which all use synonymous with AI. I think it seems to be the way that the world is headed, and so large language models are. The chatbots that we use are essentially just trying to predict what to say. So they're using math in this incredible way. And at first, they were able to predict the last word in a sentence. You know, if I said to you, the cat sat on there's only certain words that you expect to find after that. You know, the probability of the word mat is much higher than toilet or something like that, you know? So that's how these language models work, is by just using math to make predictions on what the next words will be. And then the fascinating thing is that they learn. So these models use these complicated algorithms that try to minimize how much error they're making. And so I don't know how far to go here to talk about. We can talk about how they do that in search, or we can, you know what, we'll come back to that. Let's talk about what Gemini is, because Gemini is just so confusing that Google named everything Gemini. And so Gemini, the way that we think of Gemini is probably of the chatbot Gemini. And so very similar to ChatGPT, a lot of people don't use Gemini because, so Gemini at first was Bard. And if you remember when Bard came out, like, it wasn't all that great. It was fun to play with, but had a lot of what a lot of people call hallucinations or confabulations, that Bard would just make things up. And Gemini can still do that, but as it learns, it gets better and better. So Google renamed Bard to Gemini. But Gemini uses the language model Gemini, which is not just a language model, it also understands information from images, from video, from audio. So it's a model that not just predicts the next word in a sentence, but can predict a lot of things based on all of this stuff it has. So that's confusing enough that the chatbot Gemini uses the language model Gemini, but there are different versions of the language model. There's Gemini 1.5 Pro, there's Gemini 1.5 Flash, there's Gemma, which is an open source model. And so what is most important for us to know, because it can get super overwhelming, is Gemini 1.5, which is such a silly name because Gemini 1.5 was probably the biggest thing that happened to Google, well, it was, since the Transformer. The Transformer, I'm babbling here. Is this okay, Clara?
Yeah, no, go for it. Do the Transformer.
Yes, okay, yeah. So because the Transformer, so 2017, Google made this new technology. They've been working on AI, on machine learning, on trying to understand how to do these calculations for many, many years. And then it was the Transformer that changed everything. The Transformer, they put out a research paper, and it was called "Attention is All You Need," which sounds like a strange thing. But one of the problems with AI is if you have like data all over the world, AI is really good at finding connections. But there's too much computation power that's needed to find all of the connections in all of the things in the world. It would just not be possible. So the Transformer was like actual architecture in hardware that allowed these computations to happen and just focus on what was important. attention is all you need. Focus your attention is actually a good metaphor for life. That's how you get a lot more done, is because you can be everywhere. You can have all these great ideas, but if you can focus on, where you're more likely to make a difference, then you get a lot more done. So the transformer was this revolutionary technology which Google gave away to the world. They gave it, so ChatGPT, the T is transformer. Every large language, well, almost every large language model, the ones that we commonly use Google's transformer technology. So back to Gemini 1.5. In February, Google put out a blog post, and it was amongst a bunch of other announcements. It was really kind of buried, and they talked about Gemini 1.5, and they said that it marked an evolution, like it was a new significant change. And what it is instead of a transformer model, it's something called a mixture of experts model. And at first, when I heard mixture of experts, I thought, oh, okay, maybe there's like, here's the medical model, here's the financial model, different experts. It's not like that at all. The way that it works is that it can take, so you give it a piece of information. Say you give it a document to understand, and you're going to talk about this document. Then the experts figure out how to parse that document and how to store information uh, or how to process the information in the most efficient way. And so every single expert in this model is its own neural network. That's a lot to grasp, because a neural network, I mean, if you think of a neural network is just all these combinations of things that can be connected, and you can do calculations on them. And so the mixture of experts model is a mixture of, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's this thing called a gating network that decides, it's a network that decides which of these other networks is going to be used. And then all of those networks figure out how to use the data. So this made it so that any machine learning model that Google used all of a sudden became dramatically improved. Dramatically improved. And it turns out that search runs like almost completely on machine learning models. And the industry is kind of behind in understanding this. I mean, I don't claim to know everything. I've kind of spent the last year of my life heavily studying these models, because I was trying to help people understand the helpful content system, which is a machine learning system, and which no longer exists. It's now a part of the core algorithms. So I'll pause there. That was that was a big breath, wasn't it?
I love that. There was a lot of detail there. I think that in terms of the amount of time that you have spent studying and your absolutely massive insight into these different models and in AI and what falls under that umbrella, and then you've got more of a lay person like myself, read your book, got as much of an insight as my brain allows to take on, and then we draw it back to where we are as marketers, which is basically, as we often are when anything changes, where we hold our hands up and we say, oh, there's change, we don't know what to do. So you can't look anywhere at the moment without AI, LLM, SGE, AI overviews being talked about by everyone. So just drawing it back in there, I think with my digital marketing hat on, I think that a long time we have been, trying to respond to changes. And I think that moving away from an entrenchment, in some cases, from digital marketers, the idea of, we need to move away from links and pages and towards the idea of this topical authority, which you have been talking about for a long time, back with E and all the E's, AT, and moving away from that preoccupation with the links. Can you just give us, again, top level overview? Why is that important? Why do we need to move away from this, if we haven't already, this, links are everything?
I'm laughing here because just before we had this call, I've been digging into the documentation, the so-called leaked documentation, and I think we need to talk about that because, and I haven't fully formulated my thoughts on this, so this is the first time. So you get to be
Hooray!
I'm gonna share some things here. I actually think that with the March core update, Google launched almost a new engine, almost a new, entirely new search ranking system. And the documents, so let's talk about these documents in case some of your audience isn't familiar with what happened. And it's there's so much drama with the story, and I really want to focus on the documents more than the drama. But these documents are, they're lists of API calls, of references that can be used in API calls for something called Google Content Warehouse. And they're documents for developers who are trying to build on Google's cloud platform, basically. But what's interesting is a number of the attributes in these documents very clearly relate to ranking. There are a number of mentions of PageRank. I read a really good article just yesterday on somebody went through all of the references to PageRank and how we should change, our thoughts on certain things. And we could talk about that. We're going to be talking about this for months and months to come. The thing is, that what we're talking about is this version 4 of, so there's been 1, 2, 3, 4 of these documents, but there's a version 5. And so I haven't seen, I think, somebody wrote, well, there's version 5, but it's shorter. And when I'm talking with Gemini, I'm actually having conversations with Gemini 1.5 in AI Studio now, because you can use like massive context window. You can put a lot in there. So I put the entirety of the documents in there, along with Google's announcement on Gemini 1.5, and I'm sort of fleshing out my theory that I think that the reason why these documents leaked, they were available on GitHub apparently since 2022. And so I believe that Google allowed them to be found because they knew that eventually, with what language models are giving us, anybody will be able to decipher any algorithm. We'll be able to, we're gonna see some really smart SEOs write some really interesting articles over the next few months about what was found in these documents. And I want to tell you that most of it is probably for a system that either no longer exists or has severely advanced. And this is the new advancements with Gemini 1.5 that can happen. So I don't know if I've sort of gone in a different direction here, but okay. So let's go back to traditional SEO.
Yes.
I mean, Claire, how did you learn how to do things for your clients?
20 years ago, reading Jill Whalen back in the heyday, and it was very easy to, in terms of whatever the algorithm was, it was easy to rank. It was all about keywords and title tags and internal text, internal linking, and it was about, awful links and manipulation. But that was my early days of like, what is SEO? But then I was also applying it as a marketer to real businesses. So for me, the idea that, we're SEOs and we do SEO, I was always, well, I'm a marketer and I'm marketing a business, and I like to understand, one, how search engines might operate, but also how people operate and what they need. So that's how I learn now, which is in part when I read things like the people making sense of the leak. I don't think that's going to change what I
Good.
do and how I operate, because I feel like I'm already doing the things that people are suggesting that I might need to do.
Yes, there's a lot in that. So you're right. If you are primarily helping a business to get found online, which really is the job of an SEO, is to help a business get found and to help more people, primarily with Google, but wherever, right? Wherever they want, the world is moving online and businesses want to be found there. So so your job as an SEO should be solid. Like you even though the landscape is changing, it's your job to help explain to the business owners what's happening. What I wanted to get at with this question was the way that I learned SEO was through community, was, again, trying things. I had a few clients, and I would learn something, and then, I'd write down, oh, well, Google said this, and then this person over here said this, and let's put that all together and try this, and then we take that outcome and go, well, that worked well. Now let's apply that to the next person, right? And so a huge part of what we know as our kind of like standard body of practices for SEO came from people sharing. But we don't do that anymore. Uh, and well, I mean, we do somewhat. I think podcasts like this are good. But the methods where we used to share in forums and on social media, um, we've become, as a society, so critical of each other that it's very, very difficult. If I want to publish, I still publish stuff because I think I have enough confidence in myself that if I'm, perhaps wrong on something, that's okay. But if you're publishing something, it gets heavily, heavily scrutinized, which to some extent maybe it should, because we don't want to lead people down the wrong road. And some people publish things for other reasons. Like you might publish something on why everybody should be disavowing links when you make money from disavowing links, when really, like, almost nobody should be disavowing links. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't really have a way of learning the new, like what the algorithms are today. So all we can do is guess, or this has been my strategy right from, I want to say the beginning, but maybe not. Maybe it sort of evolved around 2017 or so, which is funny because that's when AI started being used. Google called themselves AI first. They were using AI before that, but they called themselves AI first. In 2017, do you remember when Fred came out?
I can't. Fred, my least favorite update because can't remember.
Yeah, because nobody understood it, and really, Google said it was really just a combination. It was 2017, March, I think 8th was the day we called it, but I saw it roll out February 7th, 2017. I had a bunch of sites that I monitored that had this massive drop
Right.
that today we would call a core update hit, like it was really obvious, but then Google wasn't announcing them, and we just had this random, like, okay, something big changed, and who knows what. And the sites that were impacted, it turns out, were ones that had issues with EAT at the time. And so, so I started learning about EAT. My philosophy, then I came across the Quality Raters guidelines. So how familiar are you with these guidelines?
Well, from reading your stuff. So
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
you were the person that I always follow to do with the algo updates, and then EAT, and then the guidelines. So yes.
Okay, so when these guidelines initially they were private, they leaked at one point, and when they leaked, Google contacted everybody who had published them and told them to take them down. Like there was a legal thing. I
Ooh.
had bought the domain name leaked quality guidelines or something.com, and then Google was like making everybody take them down. Interesting that they didn't do that with these API file leaks, right? Like I really think that Google wants us to study
You're
how the
you're
algorithm
not
used
the
to work.
first person. I think David Mim said. I think I listened to a podcast and it was like, yeah, but whatever. We're not doing the drama, are we? So
We're not
yeah.
doing the drama, right? So my when I saw the quality rater guidelines, and these guidelines are not the algorithm. They're clearly not. They're talking about. There's a lot about being known. The examples are, the site The Knot is known for weddings, and so there's a lot of stuff that like doesn't directly translate, and you could make all sorts of ideas of how Google algorithmically would accomplish this. But my thinking was, well, if Google wrote this document and they have tens of thousands, like now there's 16,000 quality raters, the last count that Google told us. They have this many people studying on this documentation. There's good reason for it, And so even if Google's systems back in 2017 weren't exactly replicating what they wanted, what they spoke of in the rater guidelines, they told us that this is what they're working towards. And then Google came out with, well, it was with Panda. So 2011 is when the Panda filter came out. And they gave us these questions to consider, and they were things like, I don't have them in front of me now, but like, is this original content? They're questions that evolved into what today are the helpful content questions. So you know that documentation, Google, every time there's an update, Google says, well, we've been telling you there's this list of documentation questions to ask yourself. Those questions, is your content original? Is it insightful? Is it substantially more valuable than what exists on the web? Is it the type of content that people want to bookmark and share with other people? Those are the questions that Google asks. So my thought was, well, if Google is giving us these questions, they're not just like, hey, we'd like you to create nice content, like please do this. There's a reason for it. And so all along, my theory has been that different machine learning systems, whatever, a complicated mixture of, for a while, handwritten algorithms along with AI systems. I'm going to use machine learning and AI interchangeably. That these AI systems were responsible for Google getting to that point where they replicate or they show people this helpful content. So if you are doing, so let's go back to November of 2023, and Danny Sullivan, the Google search liaison, said I think it was at Brighton SEO, said something about buckle up, there's,
Okay, yeah.
stuff is coming. And sure enough, this is before the March core update happened. But he said something to the effect of, but if you're already doing, the things that Google has been saying, then it shouldn't really matter. So for you, and if you are primarily serving the needs of your clients, you're not trying to find tricks and gimmicks to make them to rank. You're just trying to figure out, like, what are my customers searching for? How can I provide them with information that they actually want? Not so much of what people do in the name of SEO is rewriting what already exists on the web, and then figuring out, well, now how do I convince Google that it's the best one to show people? Which, like, that's probably not, if you publish something for your clients, you're publishing something that their audience wants to see. So it shouldn't, these updates really, if anything, should be good for you. That sites that really relied on understanding SEO tricks, and there were still, and we can talk about links if you want, but there were still ways that you could build links that the links would sort of convince Google's algorithms that you were more authoritative than you are. I really believe, I've been saying this for years, but like I do believe that Gemini 1.5 and the March core update, Google said when they announced the March core update that it marks an evolution in how they understand the helpfulness of content. And so I think that what I'm trying to say with all of this is that our understanding of SEO as an industry is all over the place, right? And if I'm somebody new who's getting into SEO, like, what the heck do I do, Who do I listen to? All the stuff that's written is people who want to sell me links or, some software to use ChatGPT to write content, or like, it's really, really hard to get an understanding of what SEO is these days. And so I think that where we're at right now is like an inflection point in history for marketing online. That we went for 25 years with a Google search engine that was a bunch of heuristics. It was a bunch of programming, programmers sat down, said, this is how we want the algorithm to look, what we want it to reward, all building up to the point where Google could become an AI first, or an AI answer engine, really, which I know a lot of people are not happy with.
Yeah, we'll get to that bit now. What a time to be alive.
Seriously, right? Right.
That got me thinking then, definitely. Okay, so let's just touch on that now, which is the latest thing, sort of getting the babies to throw their toys out the pram, which is the artist previously known as SGE. Now we're calling AI overviews. So rolling out across search more generically, not just in the US, but one would imagine in other places in the coming
Soon.
months. I haven't had a terrific dive around thinking this is an iterative process, it's going to change every 10 minutes, so I'm not even going to look at it at the moment until it's until it starts actually affecting the SERP. There is so much hoo-ha about this at the moment. But marketers aside, what do you think the response of the general public, the actual searching public, is going to be or is? And do you think that Google was expecting the sort of negative press? And do you think they'll pull it, fix it, or leave it as it is?
It'll just continue to improve. SGE is the future of search. So let me go back to, I can't remember how long ago it was now. I keep talking about this article in the New York Times about a year and a half, maybe even two years ago, where it said Google is working on a whole new search engine, Project Magi, they called it. And it was going to provide even personalized experiences, and so this Project Magi, I got all excited about the name because when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to be two things. I want to be a mommy, accomplished. I have great kids, and a magician. so, uh, so Project Magi. I was talking with Mike King, and he had some inside information that said Project Magi actually was SGE. And SGE now, Search Generative Experience, now Google's calling it AI Overviews. So in an earnings call, maybe about a year ago, perhaps 6 months ago, Sundar Pichai said that SGE is the future of search. This isn't like, oh, OpenAI published a chatbot, now we have to rush to keep up. No, Google, there's another video that I keep referring to. It's Larry Page in the year 2000, and he's talking about Google, and he said that we have people at Google who are working on artificial intelligence, and that would be the ultimate version of search, is if you ask ask a question, that Google search would provide you with the answer. And he said that would be artificial intelligence. So all of this time, we've been building towards having an AI search engine. Now, you might say, well, but they're not good. This is hard for you and I to judge because I'm in Canada. I don't have AI overviews. I found I can get them. I have to like do a bunch of things with a proxy and another site and like, but in my regular day-to-day search, I don't see these. So it's hard for me to judge whether they're good or not. Now, Google tells us that their data shows that people love them. And people, the SEO community, make that face. Sorry, Claire, but the SEO community is like, what the heck are you talking about? Everything I have seen has been, I even said in my podcast that one of the results recently said that if you were depressed, the AI overview suggested that you jump off a bridge. Clearly not what Google would want. Well, that story was manufactured. So that was published on the New York Times, and the New York Times had to retract that bit. They didn't retract it all. And there are certainly inaccuracies in SGE, in AI overview. They will improve. And here's why I know. Google would not have put this into search knowing that it is going to spit out false information unless they knew that it was going to improve. And this is how Gemini works. So machine learning models are continually improving. You show them example after example. This is why we need the thousands of quality raters, although eventually, apparently, machines can do just as good a job. But the quality raters rate results and say, is this helpful? Is this not helpful? And those answers, they actually give criteria. They have a grid that they fill out that says, yes, this was helpful. I liked this, this, and this about it. That information fine-tunes Google's systems so that they continually improve. That's for search I'm talking about. In terms of, and Google doesn't talk very much about how their other AI models improve, but what we put into them, the reason why Bard went out before it was even close to factually accurate was because Google needs the user feedback or the user data, and it learns from every conversation that we have, which is a little bit frightening when we think about that as we talk to these language models, we're actually shaping, it's learning how to provide, it's not like it's saying, oh, Marie told me this is the right answer, therefore I'm going to say that to other people. It's just slightly modifying the numbers in its calculations so that it comes up with a little bit better, a more satisfying answer each time. And so the AI overviews. So Google says their data says that people are liking it. Well, that's real data. Like they actually collect that data and they can see that it's not necessarily the answer that people like, but the link cards is what they're calling
Okay,
it.
yeah.
So and that's what we need to pay attention to as SEOs. I don't think I want to strive to be in the AI overview unless it's about me. Like maybe I would want to be paying attention to that about my business. But in terms of the I called them helpful content carousels, but they're little cards with websites in them. That the data shows that more people are clicking on those, and not just clicking on them, but doing like search journeys, uh, where they're learning about topics and finding those useful. Now, one of the things that a lot of people like haven't seen anybody talked about is circle to search. Do you know anything about circle to search?
Nope.
Okay. So I actually think like if you're an SEO, people do not like when I say this, that you should have the latest Pixel phone. Uh, because do you? Okay. Oh, you have circle to search, Claire.
Have I got circle? Oh no, and then I do a circle and then it searches it.
You push the thing on the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
There's a little line, right? You
Yeah.
push it, and the screen will kind of glitter. And
Okay.
whatever you're on, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on a website or whatever, you just circle it, and then
Okay.
it'll search for it.
I
Okay.
wondered what that was.
Yeah. And at first it's a little bit buggy. It's like hard to get the grasp of it, but now I don't know how I ever lived without it. And I missed it on the desktop. So the way that people search is changing. I don't go to Google anymore. I might be on like let's say I'm on Twitter or on X. I'm on X less now. There's so much negativity. I want to focus on doing things with AI for good in the world. But let's say I'm there and I read something about and it uses a term that I don't know. I circle the search and then I circle that term and then I get search results for that term. That's a part of AI overviews as well. Um, and so all of this all together, there's a number of, and then Google Lens is another.
Oh, I use
And
Google Lens is my main search. That's
there
how
we
I
go.
search mostly.
Like, what do you search with Google Lens? Give me an example.
Like my life, I just like, oh, what's that? It could be like that flower or that thing. It could be I want to buy that thing or I want to know more about it. It could be sometimes I'll take photos of textual content because I want to search and I want to know where that came from, what the
Yes.
number is, what the model is. So that's how I'm using that. So I'm always asking questions and then I'll add to it. So there'll be a bit of textual content as well that I will add to the search. But I use, yeah, Google Lens is my go-to for a lot of things.
So we lived in a period of time of history where people used fingers
Yeah.
on these things called keyboards to search for information. At I/O, I demoed Project Astra. Project Astra is real time. You just walk around and say like you could just talk to it back and forth, have a conversation like it's your assistant. Well, then in the demo for Project Astra, the video that Google showed, they had glasses, and so you remember Google Glass and how
Yeah.
everybody got ridiculed. Well,
Yeah.
Larry, or no, Sergey Brin said that Google Glass was ahead of its time, and so Google will be coming out with glasses. They've got prototypes now, so we can just walk around and the AI. Well, Meta already has them. Ray-Bans already have Meta's AI technology in them. So now I can just walk around my garden and look at stuff and go, hey, what is this or whatever. So that's one thing. But then it's not a big leap to go to doing all of this with our thoughts, not even speaking. So Meta, again, Facebook, has a device that they're working on right now that is a watch. It's a wearable. Imagine you're typing your name. You're on your keyboard and you're typing your name out. As you do that, there's little nerve impulses that go down your wrist. So the wearable from Meta can pick up what you are thinking about typing. And then you can train yourself um, you can train your brain to just get better and better at that so that you don't even have to be making the hand movements. You just have to be thinking about things. and you will be able to control computers with your thoughts eventually. So we go back to the AI overviews. I don't think it matters right now. Like, we can talk about these, and yes, we should talk with our clients. We should be doing searches like when SGE or AI overviews appear in your area and impact your clients, then you should be looking at what websites are being suggested in there, what other topics that are closely connected that maybe you can create content for. I think that's important. But I think that the day is coming, and I don't know if it's like a year, 5 years, 10 years. I think 10 years, it would be like, by 10 years, a lot of things will be changed. But the day's coming where we don't use search engines. We just connect to the online world of information. And it might not all be in our brains. The brains, you don't necessarily need like an implant in your brain to do this thing. They're working on caps right now that can do it, and they'll just get better and better at connecting our brains with the internet. Now, that's scary, right? Like, how does that help you as a marketer today? Today, you focus on where your clients are being found, right? And we can think about where things are headed. Again, for somebody who has real clients with a real business, like, it doesn't really change. Your job is just to be on top of how the world is getting their information, and to convey that to business owners. So as long as an SEO, I think the number one quality that you can have right now is resilience and ability to adapt to change,
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. I think a
Yeah.
lot of businesses are struggling, not necessarily just because of what Google's doing with their algorithms, but just because of what's happening in the world. And so our jobs as SEOs really are communicators about the online world with our businesses.
So much there in what you've just said. And you covered one of the things that I think that people have worried about, marketers have worried about when it comes to AI overviews, is the idea that websites won't be cited, there won't be a link. How will, this is the questions people have is, well, how will I measure this? How will I prove to my clients the work that I'm doing is getting visibility here? And I think you've in part covered that with talking about what did you call the carousel?
Well, I called them helpful content
Okay.
carousels, because the websites that are linked to in there clearly align with I call them criteria, but really it's questions that Google says, these are questions. The helpful content questions are not what Google's algorithms reward, but what people like, which it turns out we didn't even talk about. Nav boost is user engagement signals. So much of Google's algorithms are based on what people like. And so that's really what we need to be focusing on. And I've said this from the beginning, and it gets kind of laughed at, but like, good SEO is doing work as if search engines don't exist. And so how do you measure? That's a really tough thing, because how did we measure in the past? I could show a Google Analytics chart that says, look, our traffic was here and now it's up here. Well, that doesn't help the business owner, right? What if you were measuring conversions? That helps the business owner, if that's that type of business. If you were measuring leads, if you were measuring that type of thing, that's what helps the business owner. And so you should still be able to measure those. If you're looking at absolute traffic, now, who does absolute traffic matter to? It matters to content websites, and this is who I really worry for. Now, for years, my line of work was helping websites that have been impacted by Google updates. And the most recent ones, especially the September helpful content update, we haven't seen a single recovery from it. And there's a reason for that, because the algorithms, the whole systems have shifted to understanding helpfulness rather than, let me tell you my analogy about the library. This really changed my thinking on SEO. If we think of the world's information as like just being in this one gigantic library, the librarian in early days of Google search knew a lot about every book in the library, but didn't have memory of everything that was in the books. It knew the title, it knew the entities within the book, it knew who had recommended the book. That's links from other people, right? So when a searcher goes to the librarian and says, yes, I'm looking for books on this topic, then the librarian would know which books are related to that topic and would have, figure out, it made sense of all of that information, calculated the rankings. Well, with more, what Google's been doing, don't even want to say more recent years, the DOJ versus Google trial that produced all of this testimony, the testimony from Pandu Nayak is the thing that changed my thinking on so much. Tells us that so much is related to user engagement signals, that Google can determine whether somebody clicked on a result, whether they clicked back to the search results, whether you were the last click on the search results. And all of those factors are put together by machine learning systems to determine, was this a satisfying search? Like, did the person going to the library actually get the book that they found helpful? So today, as Google has shifted and put in more and more machine learning systems, instead of pleasing the librarian, what matters is to please the people who read the books. And again, that really shouldn't change anything if you've been, producing content that is for an audience. But if you're producing content for information purposes, and because you have good knowledge of SEO, you can get that ranked, and then you can put ads on it, you can use affiliate links, that type of thing. That business model is gone. Like, and so many of those sites that were impacted by the helpful content system, they were good, decent sites, but they weren't consistently the ones that people were finding the most helpful. So, I really, really do have concerns for, like, there are millions of people who work in producing content for the web, that have been struggling immensely. So that I am concerned for, for a good number of SEOs and business owners as well.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of our audience and, the marketers that I work with and that we work with are actually here marketing for real businesses with, real services that they offer to real people. So it's very different, being an online publisher, publishing content just for the sakes of clicks and ads and stuff like that. So thinking in particular about the types of audiences and businesses that we're working with here, and whether they're in-house or whether they're agencies, the way that they work with their clients. We're all very used to Google chopping and changing the search results and responding to these algo changes. But this is a massive, obviously this isn't like an algo change. It's a complete, I hate to say paradigm shift because that's so marketery, but it's a complete shift in everything. So taking those people that are in-house and working in agencies, what do they need to do? How is this going to impact the work of people that are managing, SEO, digital side of things for these real life business locations? How is it going to impact them?
I think it impacts agencies significantly. So you know that I used to own an agency. Now I'm just on my own. I keep thinking about, if I had employees each with their own clients, it would be a very difficult time right now because there's so much to keep on top of, right? Like, are you supposed to be paying attention to ChatGPT, to AI overviews? Well, if you pay attention to what social media tells you about AI overviews, you should just hate them and ignore them. But really, they're not going away, so you should be studying them, right? And so I think if I had an agency today, I would have one person in charge of. Actually, no. You know what I would do is do what we did. We had a newsletter, and I think I would have one person. I would have each person take a new area and be in charge of finding the new information in that area, and then just have regular meetings to talk to the team about what's changing. But how does that help? So if you have a team of, let's say you've got 10 employees, each with their own local SEO clients, what do you do? I think you need new processes. Like, I think you need to sit down as a team and talk about what are the things that we're doing that perhaps are not helping now. So if you're building links, we don't know how link building has changed. Like I thoroughly believe that this change with Gemini 1.5 that I do think was introduced with the March core update makes it so that PageRank is now just one signal out of hundreds of possibly thousands of signals. And so yes, there are some links that matter, especially for local, getting found, especially if you're trying to get known for a particular topic. Getting links that truly are mentions about your business connected with that topic is something that is still good. Now, a lot of people, their method for getting links is, here are the people I know who can give me links, or here are the places I can buy links, or here are the sites I know that will take guest posts. And if it's an easy link to get for your client, it's probably something that Google systems, like they're already ignoring it. And so those things have to change. So the problem is that if you have an agency, we don't really know. I have my theories on how links have changed, and you'll see multiple other theories on what's important to do with links. So you need to be discussing as an agency, well, the links, if we are building links, are they actually helping? And that's hard to tell, but a lot of sites I've worked with have been building links with zero improvement, putting tens of thousands of dollars into link building companies with zero improvement. So if that's happening, then you need to kind of reassess, like maybe this isn't the way to go. And then I think every agency should really be understanding content. One of a resource that will be out with my book very, very soon is a workbook that's called Put Yourself in the Shoes of a Searcher. And it walks you through going through the entire SERP, including the local results, the people also asks, all of these are things that Google's system, NavBoost, actually determines which order those go in depending on what people find helpful. So if you see something ranking, if you see like, here's my competitor that is in the AI overview with this article that mine is much more helpful. Well, if you look at it, there's a reason why it's there. Like, now, sometimes Google will test things and you may find that it goes away. But if there's a competitor that's consistently being shown in these link cards in the AI overview, then look at it and really put yourself in the shoes of the searcher and say, like, how does this meet their need better? How can a lot of people, if we're writing for SEO as we knew it years ago, we will write a lot of words that are only there for search engines. When we're writing an article to help people understand the new thing about X, and we write, what is X? The history of X, how to buy X. And then you get down to, oh, here's the new news. The new news is what people wanted. And so that should be what your focus is always thinking about, when Google talks about page experience and everybody jumps to core web vitals, a part of page experience is whether people can find the main content that they went looking for. So, it's not like the entirety of SEO has to change, but I think a lot of the practices that we have, even title tags, we have very consistent practices amongst SEOs as to what's standard in title tags. To put your keyword near the beginning. I did tests years ago about, does it work if we have the keyword in the beginning or the end, and it was better at the beginning. And now I would imagine that what really matters is it the title tag that drew your audience? Because your number one goal is not to rank. Your number one goal is to get people to click on you, and maybe tied for number one goal is to get people to not just engage with your site, but go, okay, this was the one that gave me the answer that I was looking for. And if you can't do that, then more links are not going to make you have the answer, So I think that, I'll tell you, Claire, that when I started, it was like maybe a year ago when I was doing solo consulting again and doing these brainstorming calls. They were called traffic drop assessments at the time. And I realized that every single one was a grief counseling session because the sites that have been strongly impacted by Google's algorithms are because the whole system is changing, right? And my solution, like, I do think some of the sites impacted by the helpful content system will recover, not recover, will be able to be reborn, but it's a whole new business model. So, creating original, insightful content is something that you can't just hire a copywriter and pay a few bucks to do that. It's something that's difficult. So when this happened, I found myself going, what do I do with my business? Like, I can't be charging people good money just to say, sorry, you're screwed. I need to be able to understand what's happening and then be able to explain that. And, maybe there is some benefit in paying somebody who understands, and who can tell you, okay, I think it's time to move on. But that's not what there's not a lot of joy in that. So I spent the last year, and I didn't really understand at first what I was doing. I think I was just going, the world's changing and I need to get caught up. I did Google's machine learning courses. I would recommend everybody does them, not because you want to become a machine learning programmer, but so that you understand what's happening, because machine learning runs the world now. So much of AI is machine learning, and so understanding what's happening there is important. And then the other thing that happened was ChatGPT came out, and so I just started playing with it every day. My advice to anyone who's in this situation where you're like, look, I'm an SEO, but I can see the world's changing, and I don't know where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do, is play with language models. Is learn. There's a real skill in learning how to talk to them and learning how to get them to do things. And it's really tempting to go, oh, it made a mistake. I need to share that with everyone. To me, that's kind of like saying, like, I wrote a Python program and it doesn't work. So here, let me share how Python is bad. Like, it's play with them. So I spent the last year trying to understand how search had changed and kind of put that into knowledge that we could use to actually create content that would rank. And so that's why I wrote my book, which will be out soon. There's going to be a book, workbook, and a whole textbook. I realized I had essentially written a textbook that my hope is the industry can take this as a jumping off point. That we can, again, I don't know everything. I've just been trying to learn as much as I can. But we need to switch as an industry. It is a new paradigm. And people will say, well, I've always been telling my clients to create helpful content, and I've always been thinking of the user first. But even me, like when I'm writing, I realize, like, wait, I just wrote that for Google. Like, and then I'll go, if I was really, so what I'll do when I'm writing now is I'll picture someone. I'll picture, like, maybe I'll picture you, and I'll be like, okay, I bet you Claire's going to read this. She's not going to want to read the whole history of everything I've already written, like, focus on what's important to that person. So I feel like I did a bunch of babbling there, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, I had to change my whole paradigm, and I'm going, well, I don't know if we want to talk about the direction that I'm going in.
So, who was the person that you met at Google I/O that sort of you had an interesting interaction with?
Okay, let me tell you this story. My life is a movie, I'm telling you. I went to I/O, so Google invited me. I/O is their yearly developer conference, and last year they announced Gemini. And so they announced a lot of new things there. And I've been watching it for the last few years, but this year they invited me. So I was like, okay, I just flew off on my own and didn't know anybody there. And I sat down for lunch, and this man sits next to me, and I thought, he looks familiar. And I looked down at his name tag, and it's Jeff Dean. Do you know who Jeff Dean is? Yeah, it's so amazing how he's so, like, unknown, yet Jeff Dean is the head of AI at Google. He was the co-founder of Google Brain, which merged with DeepMind, and now he leads DeepMind. So he's the head of all of AI at Google. Just randomly sits down next to me, and so we just had this fantastic conversation about probably 20 minutes before all these people came around and were like, Jeff Dean, and take pictures and all this. But what we talked about was the brain. And you can't see it here, but on my screens, I have this picture. Just before going to I/O, Jeff Dean shared on Twitter this research. It was a combo of Google Brain and Harvard Medicine, did this 3D imaging of the brain. And this picture, I'll send it to you, is a picture of a neuron with these thousands of green and blue wires just going everywhere of the axons that are coming out of this. And I stared at it because I realized that the brain is a mixture of experts model, just like the new Google architecture. So if I could talk to anybody about this, it would be Jeff Dean, and Jeff said, yes. He said it's a sparse mixture of experts model, and I didn't understand what that meant, and I won't get into all that now. But it turns out that he wrote the paper
Okay.
on this type of mixture of along with Jeffrey Hinton and a few other authors. So I shared a bunch of my theories on how the brain works, which like I've never shared with anybody, but I really have this thought about pain and sickness, and I won't get into all of it right now because it's very complicated and it really sounds kind of crazy. But looking at this picture of the brain, like I think I can take my understanding of the mixture of experts model and a bunch of other things and create an app that really helps people heal from pain. So that's kind of a wild thing. So I told him that, and then he got whisked away to take pictures. Well, then he spoke in a talk, and I saw him after the talk. He said hello again, and we talked again. And I said, Jeff, what am I supposed to do with my life? Like, I have all this knowledge. I've been studying about EEAT forever, and I said, I understand now the importance of EEAT. EEAT is not a ranking factor. It's the concept that people have, right? Like, I have a concept of who you are, of what your business is, what you're good at, what makes you, what you say that's funny. What, like, I have a concept of you that is EEAT. That's how we judge the world. We're coming into a world where soon all of this knowledge, all of the online world is available in our brains, or, it's already available. Like, it's our life is on our phones and our computers. And so when AI is providing all of this opportunity for misinformation, knowing who is legitimate and who is real is so important. So EEAT is like hugely important for understanding. And I said to him, I've been writing, well, he said, he gave me two things. He said, first, create a system. He said, keep learning and create a system so you can share with others. And I laughed because that's all I do is like I have my newsletter, which I've changed. I'm focusing on just certain things now, not everything to do with search. And then I do things like this now, podcasts and trying to share. But I said, but I want to do something. Like I've been learning about algorithms and search and now the brain and like it's got to be for some reason. And he said, oh, he says, let me give you a book to read. So the book is called Beyond Boundaries, and by Miguel. I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name. We'll have to find it. I can send you the link. And it's all about brain-computer interfaces. And so it's all this research talking about how they're connecting brains with machines, and so I'm not off to go connect. I'm not in my mad scientist layer connecting brains with machines. But here's the thing: Google has a contest, a developer contest. To create something with Gemini that makes a difference in the world. And the deadline is mid-August, and so I'm going to try to I'm gonna do it. We'll see. I'm gonna make an app and try it out. I've already tried my method with a few people. It seems to work. So I'll be sharing more about that. And then the prize for this contest, this is the funniest part, is a 1981 DeLorean, the Back to the Future car,
Brilliant.
converted to electric. It has a Tesla engine in it. And so I sat in the car. I talked with the guy who built this car. And I was like, this is my car. I'm going to win this car. So then I said, maybe I already won it, and I'm from the future. And I just parked my car at I/O to help me find it again.
Uh, my face actually hurts from laughing, and just for the look of pure joy that I am wearing as you told me that story. I love that you were sat next to Jeff Dean. I'm sorry I didn't know who he was. I'm definitely going to go and search for him now. It was meant to be.
It was, right? I mean, so many, we talked about so many things. So I said to him, I said, this mixture of experts architecture, is it the biggest thing since the transformer? And he said yes. And so, he wouldn't say a lot about Google's algorithms, but then he talked on stage about how machine learning shaped search and is so important. And what held Google back was computational power. It's all about how much math. So Gemini 1.5 in the chatbot gives you this massive context window, which means you can stick a million tokens, now it's 2 million tokens, which is like multiple copies of World and Peace into this document. Well, if it can analyze that much text, it can also analyze all of the signals on the web, if it knows where to focus its attention. So I think that the take-home point is lots of things are changing, and if somebody's listening to this and thinking like my life is just such a mess right now, and I don't know where everything's going, because I talk to people every day who are in that situation. Like we're all kind of in there because we're in the midst of a revolution. One of the speakers at I/O was Ed, I think it's Caskill. He was the founder of Pixar, and he was talking about how he said we are currently on the steep part of an exponential curve in terms of AI. And when that happens, when there's change, not just in an industry, but in the world, there's really only two reactions to it. One is to grab it and get excited and do things with it. And the other is to ignore it and speak negative about it. And this is what you'll see. Like it's the mainstream media, and for good reason, because AI will make a lot of the media not necessary, not completely. We still need journalism. But I would just caution whatever you read to go to the source. When you read that Elon Musk's Neuralink failed because threads pulled back from the guy's brain do you know what I'm talking about? Neuralink?
I can imagine what it is.
He inserted an implant into his brain with these threads. The guy was paralyzed. He had a diving accident, paralyzed from the neck down. Now he can control a computer mouse with his thoughts and play video games and stuff. So the media wrote about how the threads retracted, and now Neuralink has to find a second patient, and it's a disaster. It's mind-shattering, no pun intended, research that is happening, and that's just a part of the research that, and you talk to the person who actually is in the study, and he's like, this is incredible, it's going to change the world. Paralyzed people are going to walk. People with ALS who can't talk are now able to talk. Like, there's so much great, amazing change that is coming for the world, but right now we're on the steep part of an exponential curve, and for someone like you and I who, how are we supposed to explain to business owners, right now it's AI overviews, it's going to be a lot more. We can have this conversation a year from now, and I bet you it'll be drastically different than we had today. And so resilience is the number one trait that will get us through.
Yeah, resilience as the word, definitely. We've got a lot. Yeah, there's two things that you said in particular there that I think are really interesting. One is always going back to the source, because we're going to have to constantly question and question and question. That's the nature of where we are now with the stuff that happens online. And just one more thing, I think I said that you were lucky to speak to Jeff Dean. I think Jeff Dean was very lucky to get to sit next to you, because there's no better person that he could have sat next to get an idea of how industry and people are responding to the current situation. So lucky Jeff Dean for getting to sit next to you at Google
It was a
I/O.
cool conversation. We talked about video games and how video games build neurons. And if you can combine the joy of getting lost in a video game with feeling like with healing, and anyways, he gave me a fist bump for that. That was a good one, yeah.
I think that, yeah, excited to see what happens next on that. Marie, now is the time in Adventures in Local Marketing where you get to put something in room 404. Now, I can imagine there are probably a lot of things that you'd like to put in Room 404, which is the place where marketing concepts or ideas go to die, and we don't have to hear from them ever again. So, what would you like to drop into our oubliette to never see again?
The way that you worded that, I don't know. I was gonna say links, but now I don't know about that. I want to say link building. I want to change link building to reputation building because so much of our wisdom as SEOs, even as white hat SEOs, in regards to links, is still shaped on Google's old algorithms. And so I would love to see us form a new understanding. Links are still important. PageRank is still something that matters. I think links are important for getting your content found if you're new, and links are important. The anchor text of your links are kind of like labels that tell Google what people are talking about in regards to you. If I link to you and I label that with something regards to not even just the anchor text local SEO, but if the context of the words around that anchor text are saying like I'm talking about you as an expert in local SEO, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you rank better for local SEO things. It means that when Google looks for content from somebody who understands that topic, that you are connected with the topic of local SEO. So links can help you get understood for a topic. But I think so much of what we do in the name of link building is such a waste of time. And there's a whole economy on links that doesn't need to exist. So I would like to take most of link building and put it in that place, but focus on reputation building instead.
I love that. Thank you. And so I don't know. Do I get to decide? But yes, I think we can pop that in the bin. Sorry to anyone that is, still in love with that idea. But yes, we'll have all of the things, please. Unlinked mentions, citations. We'll have anchor text of all types. It's just like anything that is going to send, it reflects on our reputation and what we are, then we'll take that, please. And
Everything that you're doing in terms of marketing is putting information into the world. And so you want to put information into a world that strengthens the public's perception of your brand and what you're known for and what you do. And that the Rater guidelines even talk about comments. Like if people are commenting on social media saying, "Oh, Claire, this was the best interview ever," right? Like that actually speaks to the world's understanding of what you're good at. So yes, forget links. Think about putting more good information about your brand and your business into the world, and also creating content that deserves that. You know what we didn't talk about? I'm sorry. Let's just say one more thing. Is freshness. Freshness is the. I have a whole chapter in my course on freshness because a massive chapter because there's so much from Google. If you think about if you go and look for information on, like, say, even these Google document leaks. You've read the same post, like you know what the files are. If you've already read one thing, you know that. What people want is something new about it. It's new, fresh information. So I'd really be focusing on freshness too.
brilliant. You have said, Marie, very kindly, because I love a little list of things that we need to do next because it helps me focus. And apart from obviously going off and reading your new book when it is published, which is one thing that people need to do, can you share with us a little recipe for success? You've got some 5 things that we as SEO and marketers need to think about now to respond to Gemini and this very shifting search environment. What should we do?
Okay, so I would say, above all, focus on authenticity. EEAT, over the years, we've talked about getting information in the knowledge graph or getting mentioned on authoritative sites. Really, it is being authentically a brand that, and I use the word brand. I think brand is important. Even if you're a small website, you need to be known for something. Google's new document or new technology makes them better able to find helpful content, But if you're like a nobody that nobody's ever heard from, and you have the best article ever on a topic, like you still have to get people to click on that from search. So authenticity, being known for your topics is very, very important. The next thing is helpfulness. Like everything that Google has written and talked about, like the word helpful is all over the place, and that really is their number one goal. You know, we could talk about all these theories of how Google determines what's helpful and what's not, but like we know now that they use user engagement signals. There's discussion as to whether they use them on Chrome themselves, but they, even if they just use them from people in the search results and saying, well, they clicked on this result and they didn't stay on it, and like, you know, using all those factors to figure out what did people find helpful. Your number one goal is to be helpful. Okay, that's 2. 3 is really pay attention to images and video. We haven't talked. I haven't seen a lot lately written about images and video. And Gemini 1.5 understands image and video far better than ever before. So I've been noticing in some of the exercises that I do where I'm looking at searches through the eyes of a searcher. Is that some of the results that Google is starting to elevate have a helpful image at the top, or so I wouldn't just go sticking in an image, for just to have an image there. But if you can think of a way to use rich media, even audio as well, then that's something that can count towards the helpfulness of your pages. Okay, next thing is let's see here. I said it before, freshness is so Google, their number one thing is to provide people with original and insightful information. And when I say that, like a lot of people are like, oh, maybe I could add a table with some research. And I'm like, okay, that's information, but we need to be thinking. And this is why Google says in their documentation that we should be writing for people first. And one of the questions asks if we have an existing, I don't know why they say existing or intended audience, because everyone has an intended audience. But if you have an existing audience, then you know the questions. Like when I'm writing about these API files that have been found, I know the questions that are there because I have conversations with you and with other search engine marketers, right? Whereas if I'm trying to create content for a business that I don't know, that's difficult. So some of the exercises in my course that I do is walk through things like, maybe do a Zoom call with the business that you're working with and ask them, what questions were you asked this week, and like brainstorm with the business themselves on creating content. And then the last thing that I would mention that I think right now is maybe the most important is to play with LLMs. I know like there's so much that can be inaccurate with them, but if you kind of crack the code and start getting good stuff out of them, it's really addictive. And now, what LLMs will do is they will make people who are good at their craft better at their craft. Like, I'm not going to lose my job as an SEO because of AI, but I'm going to become a better SEO because of AI. So before I was on this call, I had Gemini and AI Studio that you can put, over 1 million tokens into. I put in all of the documentation from the API files. I put in the Pandu Nayak testimony. I put in Google's announcement about Gemini 1.5 and their announcement about the March core update. And now we're brainstorming together with, how can I put this all together in a way that makes sense? I couldn't do that without those tools. So I would just encourage you to try doing things, even if it's just like gardening. Even my husband has created this insane garden, and now he's doing worm composting, which like there's so much to know, and he does get a lot of information from YouTube, but all day long he uses chat. He calls his LLMs Chad and Brad for Bard. And so he talks to Chad all day long, and he is probably a more experienced gardener than somebody who's been gardening for 20 years in some areas. There's pros and cons. So I would really say play with the tools. Play with ChatGPT. Now, the free version of ChatGPT is GPT 4.0, which is their most recent version. It's the same version that paid people have, so it's good. You just have fewer. There's a usage cap on it. And then for Gemini, there's free Gemini and then there's Gemini Advanced. Now, I actually find that the free Gemini is like almost equal to Gemini Advanced. I try doing prompts in both, and I don't know, but I would pay for Gemini Advanced. I mean, I do pay for it. If you're a marketer, you really want to be on the cutting edge of what is available there. Every day I go into, well, almost every day, I go into Gemini and I have a conversation. I say, "Hey, Gemini, how have you improved today?" And we have conversations about reinforcement learning with human feedback, and I learn more and more about how the language models work, which makes me and my knowledge more valuable in the time to come. I'm going to say this isn't number 5. This is just like an added bonus
This
tip.
is an extra bonus.
I really think that those who have information in Google Docs are sitting on money right now. Now I've been madly for some unknown reason collecting everything about search. Like I can't stop collecting it in Google Docs. Well, right now I can take my Google Docs, I can take that entire like all of my newsletters and put them into what Google has called Notebook LM. And I can't share it yet, it's just a personal thing, but I can reference anything. So if I'm like, "Oh, when did Sundar Pichai say this?" Like, it will find my references everywhere where I've written about that in my notes. Now, combine the tech's already there that I could build a tool that you could query my Google Docs with AI, but it's complicated and you need to know how to create apps and stuff like that. I am sure that Google will be giving us the ability to have private servers, like our information is private, but then we can create tools where I can say, look, this is the history of everything known to SEO, and you can use it to query whatever you want. So then Google will find ways that costs money. Every time you use an LLM, it costs money, and so people will start charging for that, and that's a whole new economy. So I don't know when that's coming, but I'm 100% sure that we will be seeing the opportunity to learn a topic and create content on that topic, and then charge people money, or use it as like a lead gen. For one of your clients, assuming the accuracy is good enough, you could put all of their knowledge base that they share with the public into these documents, and then it's not just a chatbot, it's a chatbot that's grounded in their knowledge, and you could charge for that, or you could use it as like, look, you want to know all about this topic? Here's our chatbot, and you can instruct the chatbot. In my course, I have some GPTs that do this. That says like, oh, you're talking about the helpful content system. Here's Marie's article on that, and it links to So you could sell products from within your chatbot. So that's coming, and I'm getting excited about that.
What I was going to say, your last point, familiarize yourself with the models. Am I right in thinking that in your workbook, your new workbook, because I think one of the stumbling blocks for people is to understand how to use it. What should I be doing? In your workbook, you give lots of examples, because I think I was running through when I was asking, how many Claire Carlisles are there, who is the best one, etc., etc. So it was your documentation that just gave me some ideas for some prompts for me to understand. So I think that is super useful for a lot of people, because at the moment, a lot of marketers are like, well, but how should I be using this? One, to actually help me in my day-to-day job, and two, how should I be using this to help me understand the technology? And I think that you answer that, don't you, in your new book?
You have to be aware of the faults in order to use it. It's kind of like talking to a person. When I talk to you, Claire, I get great information from you, but you don't know everything. And you might say something, I know, you might say
What?
something that to you is truth,
Yeah,
but isn't,
yeah.
And a language model is the same way. I'm the same way. I'm sure, like all the time, I mix up my words and I'm like, oh, I said this word and I meant that one. Um, so I have another book. Let me tell you another little quick story. One day I was working on my course and I was like tired of it. I was like, I want to just do something else. And I challenged myself for one day to use Bard. This was before it was Gemini, to learn how to write and publish a book on Amazon. And so Bard and I wrote a book about how to use Bard, I think is what it's called. I think I sold like 5 copies. It's on Amazon for $10. It's how to use Bard, and it's just a bunch of different fun prompts. Like you can play Pictionary with Bard, to get you to learn to just learn to communicate. Because the way I think about these tools is that they're like having an assistant in a Slack channel, again, that knows knowledge of a ton of things, but doesn't really quite have social knowledge or like up to date knowledge. And I also am constantly aware of the fact that it's just math. So that's exciting because if you think I can use math to take the entirety of the world's online knowledge that AI has been trained on and find connections that other people couldn't find, you know?
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Marie. We are coming up to the end of our time for this recording. Personally, I want to know more. Can you let us know where people should connect with you, sign up for your newsletter, those types of things? Where can people find you and get more information?
Sure. Probably a good place to start is mariehaynes.com/newsletter. That'll tell you about the newsletter. I've made some changes because I used to write about absolutely everything in search. And then I decided to just focus on what's important. And then the next week we get these API files. So that's what I'm writing about now is as I learn stuff, I'm sharing that in my newsletter. Also, I have a podcast, mariehaynes.com/podcast. It's been sporadic, but my goal is once I get my course out to be regularly talking about these things because I really like to babble on about them. And then for my resources that are coming, if you go to mariehaynes.com/training, and hopefully by the time you have the podcast out, this episode out, it'll be up, but it might be a little while. And that will be my book, my workbook, my textbook and course, and also a free resource for people who have been impacted by Google updates and are trying to decide whether to try recovery. There's a big document there that I created as well. And I'm not on X as much as I used to be. That's a big, long story. Well, it's not a long story. I'm just focusing on positivity and spending my time learning good stuff. But I am there occasionally. And then I have my own community called the Search Bar, which is just kind of taking off. And I have big, big plans for this. This week I'm going to be talking with people who have applied to be what I called a topic enthusiast, who are going to learn about their topic plus AI, post about it in the Search Bar, and then we're going to meet regularly to talk about where the world's going and how we stay resilient as AI changes the world.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you very much. So all that remains is to say a super big thank you to you, Marie, for coming along today and for sharing all of your insights.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
And a big thank you to our listeners, obviously. Remember to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you are the first person to know when we have a new episode. And if you have enjoyed listening to Adventures in Local Marketing, which we obviously wish that you have, then leave us a review on wherever you're listening, your podcast platform of choice. Share it with a friend, listen with a friend, because it makes a difference to us and it allows us to make even more valuable content for you. So it is a goodbye from me.
All right, goodbye.
And a goodbye from Marie.
Thank you.
And see you next time on Adventures in Local Marketing. We're looking forward to it already.